Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Before we kick off this week's episode, just a quick ask. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure that you never miss an episode, never miss out on any of the strategies and tactics that we're sharing to help you continue charting your own path to freedom. And if you'd like to go deeper with any of this, we've launched a free Facebook group, which you can join at pathtofreedom.com/group. And we've linked that in the show notes to make it easy for you to find. All right. Thank you again for being here. Let's drop in to the episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Path to Freedom podcast. Today, I'm joined by Carlton Washington. And he's one of the co-founders of Forever Young, which is, in my opinion, one of the most exciting franchise brands, that I've worked with over the last 4 or 5 years. So excited to have Carlton with me on the show today. Carlton, how are you, man?
I'm great, and I'm excited to be here today, man. So I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, well, look, we were just chatting before we hit record. I don't know exactly. I'd have to go back and look, but I had you and your co-founder, Dennis, on my podcast sometime back in 2020. And it was probably, if I had to guess, within the first 20 episodes of this podcast. And, so I'll link that in the show notes. The audience has gotten a bit bigger since then. I think we just put our 250th episode out last week. So, first of all, appreciate you guys coming on my show when I was still trying to figure out what the hell I was doing and very much an amateur at it. But, you and Dennis gave us a really good overview of the Forever Young business and kind of where it was at that time. So, I figured there was some other things we could really center today's conversation around. But for the audience, maybe give us kind of a quick overview of what is Forever Young and tell us a little bit about where the brand is today.
Awesome. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I love speaking about our business. I love helping people out, and hopefully we give something that's impactful and insightful today. Forever Young was started in 2014 by myself and my co-founder, business partner, Dennis Dougaloo in South Florida. And really, we weren't friends. We didn't know each other. Two guys that really kind of intersected in life at a very crucial time, I think, for both of us, where we needed to do something different. We needed to make a change. And we collided with that. And the concept was really simple. Originally, it was for me personally, I was on HRT, testosterone replacement therapy. I love to go out a lot. I was still trying to continue my partying from college at 34. And so I found myself always getting IVs and stuff like that. Yeah. And testosterone was keeping me feeling young. And I was figuring out ways to keep is it pretty healthy doing all this stuff? And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I was just so dissatisfied with my corporate life and what I was doing. I felt like I wasn't helping people. I felt like I was hurting people. And really from my angle, it was just like, hey, let's take a chance on doing this business. It was really supposed to be a wellness business. And while we were developing the business, we had some advice and some consulting that was like, hey, well, you should also consider, maybe things that have to do with your appearance and skincare and stuff like that. This is all anti-aging. And we had just actually interviewed someone that specialized in that. And so we're like, let's add that and do that as well. And so we created this concept called Forever Young with the number 4. And it was really a vitality center. It was a one-stop shop for people like us and like-minded people who didn't want to go down the path of sick care, didn't want to have orange pill bottles everywhere. And we wanted to look good. We wanted to feel good. We wanted to do it for as long as possible. And quite honestly, I won't speak for my partner, but for me, I wanted to be sexy as long as possible. Yeah. I wanted to go out as long as possible. I didn't want to I looked at people who are aging. And I mean, one of the services, for instance, we have is erectile dysfunction treatments.
Yeah.
I never really considered having erectile dysfunction at the age of 30, but I thought I don't ever want to either. And so
for sure, yeah, if there's preventative measures that you can take, then, why would you not?
Yeah. And so we're really passionate about it. And finding out as men that women were having the same concerns. We already knew the aesthetic part, but
yeah,
I didn't know women went through so much hormonally and with that and how devastating it was. And so we opened our doors, and we really didn't know much about what we were doing. Neither one of us had medical training or credentials at all. But what we did know is that we knew it worked, and we knew it wasn't snake oil, and we knew that there was a demand for it. And we knew that we had zero options for failure because one, of the embarrassment, and two, because of the financial ruin that we were already in, pretty much starting. And so
that helps.
Yeah, it all helps. And so today, Forever Young is, I believe by unit count, the largest franchisor in the vitality space, with over 54 open locations, opening 1 to 2 every single month in over 15 states right now. And
yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible, man. You guys have had, and look, you guys have done it right too, right? I mean, look, there's a lot of ways that, especially a brand like yours, right? It's got the sex appeal. It's a cool concept, right? It's one that a lot of people are going to look at, and it's going to make sense pretty quickly, and it's going to, be the type of business a lot of people would look at and be like, yeah, I would like to own a business like that. You guys have done a fantastic job growing. But from me, on the outside looking in, it really looks like you've done it the right way too, because there's a lot of ways that an appealing brand can grow really, really fast, right? And it seems like you guys pretty quickly figured out exactly who you wanted your franchise owners to be, understood the culture that you wanted to really cultivate within the brand. And I know that, there's people that got turned away, right? That would have absolutely, signed up to become a franchise owner, but you guys kind of stuck to your guns and said, look, we're not willing to sacrifice on who we bring in. And, like for me as a franchise consultant, when I see some of these brands come onto the scene and they've got, this growth potential, and then they start really growing, I'm watching closely. Like, does it seem like they're just selling to anyone that's willing to write them a check? And if so, that's a red flag to me, because it's a lot of work to support these franchisees. Your brick and mortar, right? You got to get them open once they're signed. So props to you guys for doing it the right way.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. And I don't ever want to exaggerate the way things look. And so I say that to say that it was a process. I always tell people we have like a version 1.0, version 2.0, version 3.0. I think we're like 4 to 4.5 of the versions.
Okay.
For franchising. And that was a really big deal, I think, for any consultants that are listening, anybody that wants to buy a franchise, the integrity piece was huge. And when we started selling franchises, there was a battle, because we were told the consultants aren't going to like you if you turn people away. But we were saying to ourselves, look, well, that's not a good consultant then, because as a person 100%. Right now that's considering becoming a franchise consultant one day, I can't sell a bunch of bad deals to people and build a foundation for my business and then not answer their phone calls. Like, you're putting people into financial devastation and bankruptcy, suicide, and divorce by selling someone a bad business. And not only that, as the franchisor, you're screwing up our business. So we don't want that. We went through several rounds of some really crazy stuff that was sent to us by consultants. And we just said, hey, you know what? We've had enough. We're not doing that. It's not right. And not only is it not right, I don't have the legal budget for what this is bringing to us right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's so true, right? I mean, in the world of franchise consulting, it's like most other things in this life, right? There's really good franchise consultants out there that they get it. They have real life experience that they can use to guide and advise someone else through this process that's never been through the process of buying a franchise before. But then there's a lot of people out there that are just looking to make a buck, and those are the ones that are going to try to, not only just force feed a brand to someone that brand's not the right fit. Because, like you mentioned, bad franchises. There's a ton of bad franchises out there that nobody should be investing in my opinion. But there's also such a thing as a really good franchise that's a really bad fit for someone, right? And then that still
Yeah.
leads to all of these negative scenarios that you described. So
that's a quotable, by the way. You need to share that clip with as many people as possible. I've never looked at it that way before, or said it that way before. People who are looking to buy a franchise need to hear that. It might not be the right fit for you.
Yeah, you gotta look at so many factors, and it's why a lot of brands, especially kind of in the category that you're in with Forever Young, because like if I had to say, hey, because I don't usually answer questions like, hey, what's the hottest franchise out there? What's the best type of franchise? Because there's just too many variables and too many nuances to really be able to answer that question specifically. But I would say like one of the fastest growing categories within franchising over the last 5 or 6 years has been what I would consider the health, wellness, and recovery category, right? And there's a lot of cool concepts out there. There's a lot of demand, right? I think the knowledge and understanding of the typical consumer has increased dramatically in terms of things like, TRT and peptide therapies and, some of these other options, and people want it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's easy for a brand that, has this kind of appeal to someone to go and sell a bunch of franchises really quickly. And a lot of people are going to get into it because they're choosing their franchise based on the widget, right? The product or the service. And so, I talk about this all the time, and everyone that I work with, we don't talk about what industry you want to be in until probably at least our third meeting, right? We're focused on, what are your drivers and motivators? Number one, like, what do you really want to get out of business ownership? What are you good at? What are the things that get you most excited, that are really in your wheelhouse? And we talk about lifestyle, right? Because, there's always a financial component to, someone wanting to get into business for themselves. But in my experience, more often the lifestyle component is more important. And that's where people screw this up all the time. They get into a business that doesn't play to their strengths and their skill sets, and it's not going to give them the type of lifestyle that they want. And then that's just a recipe for burnout. You're stuck with a bunch of unhappy franchisees. You mentioned the legal budget, right? I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. And so, you guys as a franchisor should not ever feel beholden to a franchise consultant being pissed off at you because, you're telling their candidate, hey, we're not the right fit for you. Right. And if the franchise consultant doesn't get that or understand it, they're not playing their role in the process the way they should be. We'll get right back to the episode in just a minute, but if you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are some strong considerations that people need to consider. And especially in a business like ours, this is still a unique emerging industry with a unique emerging brand. And, you spoke before, we spoke before the show about, we did do a transaction. We do have a private equity partner, and we are in transition right now. But I think it's been important for even them to learn, like, hey, there's an avatar here. This isn't for everybody. Yeah. And a lot of people that we've had to turn away, or that we now turn away due to version 1.0, 2.0. Look, this isn't a fantasy. This isn't a midlife crisis. This isn't like your weight loss journey that you want to like tell all your friends about, and like, because you got on testosterone and like you lost a couple pounds. Like, that's cool. That's cool for a little bit. That's not going to sustain you through this process of building this business. And and in our industry, I don't care if you're a private equity group looking to buy into Forever Young, or a stay-at-home mom who wants to, start a business, or anything in between that, there's got to be a connection. There needs to be an understanding of our patients. There needs to be an understanding of the services as a patient, meaning that you are a patient. You believe in what we do. Yes, maybe the P&L looks good. Yes, maybe this is a great opportunity to make some money. But if you don't love this and you don't love the people and the technology and the patients and the results of our services enough to put your family on and for you to use them yourself, do not buy a business like this. I don't care how much money you have, because it doesn't translate well. We are in a people-facing business. We're Amazon-proof for now, and we're retail brick and mortar. You make your money by building trust and authority with your patients, and if you can't do that, don't get in this kind of industry at all.
Yeah, that's solid advice. Because, look, any of these businesses, they're going to have challenges, right? And there's going to be shitty days where you're like, why am I doing this? And so you need to have enough, passion, drive, motivation, connection to the business, whatever you want to call it, to get you through the hard days, right? And like I said, I mean, in my experience, man, most of the people I work with, the financial component's not their top priority. Yeah, they want to make money, they're ambitious, but it's much more about, because I mean, I'm sure a lot of your franchisees or a lot of the people that have looked at your brand are the same. They're coming out of corporate, they've made $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year. Like, they're doing very well financially, but they're burned out, right? And they don't have any control of their time, and they can't spend their time the way they want to do it. They're kind of numb. They're not enjoying, like you mentioned, right? Your corporate career, you didn't feel good about what you were doing. Like, I think a lot of people get to that point. And so obviously they don't want to get into a business to lose money. They probably don't want to, have to take a big step backwards in terms of their financial lifestyle, once they get into the business. But it's so much more about actually enjoying it. And like, I've used this example a few times. So my wife and I have owned two different franchises. We still own one. We've had it for about 7 years. The other one we sold back in November, had it for about 3.5 years. And our franchises are more service-based, kind of home improvement, home service type stuff. But, it was at first glance, both of these businesses would look on paper like they're very, very similar. And, we knew some of this coming in, but we also learned a lot through the process. There were some very, very distinct differences in those businesses, and those businesses had, one of them in particularly had a very distinct impact on our lifestyle, right? Like, we've got 3 young kids. We went down this pathway to have, more control of our time, more freedom, right? That's financial freedom. That's time freedom. And one of these businesses, even though, we were making money, it was taking us in the opposite direction of that freedom, that time freedom. And it was stressful as hell. So we sold it, and we probably could have stayed in that business, built it up for another couple years, sold it for a heck of a lot more than we did, but it wasn't worth the sacrifices we were having to make on the lifestyle side of things.
Right. No, that's a great point. And one of the things that you just said that really stuck out to me is you kind of attach the dollar amount to lifestyle and life. And when I hear somebody, and this is the thing that really gets me now, with statistics and income and what someone's looking to make, when I hear someone tell me that they're making $500,000-$600,000, I don't know about you, but I haven't met anybody that's making $500,000 to $600,000 on the regular basis as an employee or in corporate America that's not giving $500,000 or $600,000 worth of something.
Yeah,
in terms of their output, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That money, it sounds great, and that's great money, but you're getting taxed somewhere. And I'm not talking about the IRS. I'm talking about in your life.
Yes,
you owe somebody that. You owe. Yep. You're giving. For me to give you $500,000 to $600,000 means I really pretty much own you. You know
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah. So it's a tough situation to be in, especially when you're making that initial investment, because also I've never seen a franchise where you make $500,000 to $600,000 the first month. So
no, not out there. If you find it, let me know.
You let me know. You tell me.
Yeah, it's you gotta have realistic expectations, right? But it's why the work that I do one-on-one with someone's so important. Is why the franchisors need to have the mentality that you guys have, right? Which is, we're not trying to make this seem like something it's not. We want you to have very realistic expectations, and there needs to be alignment in order for this to make sense, and for there to be a high likelihood of success in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you bring that up. Like, so again, I will mention that we partnered, we did a transaction with private equity. And one of the things that we really had to kind of compromise on initially was that in version 4.5 of Forever Young, I started taking it upon myself in the role to be a gatekeeper and to basically tell people like, hey, or make it very, very, very difficult for someone to make the decision, because I wanted them to do diligence. I wanted them to really think about this, and I wanted to scare them. I wanted to scare them because I thought for integrity purposes, for the brand and me as just as an individual, I want there to be no question in your mind as to what this entails, what it's going to mean, what success is going to look like for you. And I wanted to make sure that it was full disclosure that we told you what you're getting into beforehand. And obviously, as an investor, private equity doesn't want to really scare people,
No, they want you closing deals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's important because in franchising period, because it's the worst thing ever to see somebody fail, and it's the worst thing ever, to have apprehension about signing somebody.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that way. And it's like, because you lose sleep at night. That's the thing about franchising. One of the reasons why I wanted to partner and bring on private equity is, as a franchisor who started a business from the ground up, as a founder, you're losing sleep at night. I'm losing sleep at night. I met your family at Discovery Day. Yeah. I know you have 2 kids. I know you just lost a parent or whatever's going on in your life. Like, I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It can get heavy, I'm sure. It can get very heavy, and it's the worst thing when you see someone, regardless of the dollar amounts, right? You just see someone put the time, energy, and effort into it, plus the money, and then it doesn't work out. And but it's one of those things, man. There's never going to be a perfect science to it, right? Like, I'm sure you have examples amongst your franchisees where you were a little apprehensive about someone. You ended up approving them, and they're crushing it, right? They've exceeded your expectations, right? And then on the flip side of that, I'm sure you have examples of people that you're like, oh, this is a perfect fit. This is exactly like, this is going to be a rock star franchisee, and they shit the bed. I know I've seen it, with people I've worked with over the years in terms of candidates. I worked for a number of different brands, saw it there. So it's one of those things. It's a little tough. And so, like, I've had, mentors with different mentalities on this. Like, one of my mentors, founder and CEO of the first brand I worked for, he was kind of like you. He tried to essentially talk them out of it when they were at Discovery Day. And if they still wanted to do it, then all right, we got full disclosure. And it also showed him like they really want it, right? They're serious about this. They're not just, it's not a fantasy, like you said, right?
Yeah, because the right candidate won't be afraid of that. The right candidate won't be afraid of that. And even in dating, the right woman won't be, or man won't be afraid of that. You're dating somebody, like, look, I snore, and I got some bad habits, and I like to go out with my boys and drink, on the weekends. And, this is how it's going to be. I'm just letting you know I'm that guy. Like, you sure you want to deal with me? Like, and if you do, great. And then we can carry on. But, like, to not tell someone that, it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, and it saves a lot of time, right? Because if they're not good with it, then hey, at least we've got that out there in the open, and we don't have to spend 3-4 months figuring out, is this what we want to do or not? Like, then I had another mentor that, his mentality was kind of, look, I mean, still full transparency and full disclosure. He wasn't trying to, sugarcoat anything, but if he was a little hesitant on someone, I mean, there were still people that we turned away, but if there was someone that, was kind of 50-50 and they wanted to do it, he was kind of like, well, who am I to not let them bet on themselves? Like we've shown them everything, right? We've given them. So I think based on my experience, I definitely fall more on the side, that you're on. And I think continue to move more and more to that side, right? Which is, you want to really, because it's one of those things, man. You could spend a year doing diligence on one franchise brand. You could talk to every single franchisee multiple times, and you're still not going to fully understand and appreciate everything that business entails, the good and the bad, until you're in it, until you're living it. So, there's not a perfect way to like really show someone how hard it's going to be or what it's going to be like. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I think you're doing it the best that it can be done, but there's not a perfect science to it.
No, thank you. Yeah, we're again, it's like that 500 or 600K first month franchise. If you find it, let me know.
Yeah, 100%. So I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit on, because you've mentioned the private equity partners that you guys brought on. How has your role changed? Because you're still active in the business, right? You and Dennis as co-founders still have ownership in the company, correct?
Yes.
So how's your role changed, and like how have you had to learn and adapt over the years as you guys went from being, co-founders, having a couple locations down in South Florida to, now we're franchisors, but we're trying to figure this franchise thing out. And now you've got, 50 plus open locations, private equity partners. Like, tell me a little bit about your journey and how you've had to evolve a little bit. Hey everyone, we'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. So it's been stages, and the first stage of the business was grind, whatever it takes, grind. We cannot fail. Then you go into like, oh, we're a bigger business now and dealing with, oh, wow, like people want to, people see you as a target. Competitors see you as a target, liability, more human resources. And then you go into, your family's growing, your expenses are going up. How do we make more money? Let's go into franchising. And like, oh shit, we're not franchisors. Like, I always tell people, I always want to tell this story. I'm going to steal this story from the guy who gave it to us. But we had a private equity company court us in Ohio, and they lured us there by having David Goggins speak. And so before David Goggins spoke, the guy gets on stage and he's like, hey guys, before we bring out David, does anybody here know what the first rule of franchising is? And everybody's like, well, the first rule of franchising is never franchise your business.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit. And so then you find out what that means. And then you go through that process, and then you have to let go of some of the tight reins because you licensed your baby out to people. And then you start having royalties coming in, and then you need to grow your team. And then now you're not really in the business that you started anymore. You're in this other business. And that brought me to the point where, it became a big business. And I think when we sold, we had 30 something locations open. And I got to the point, I was like, I left my career as a corporate refugee. I was tired of corporate. I freaking hate corporate. Like, I hate what it stands for. I hate the bureaucracy of that. And then I've just worked myself right back in 10 years to being in corporate again. If someone says something I don't like, they do something random, I'm like, yo, fuck you. What are you talking about? You can't, and like, you can't do that, Carlton. You
Yeah.
can't see it, Carlton. I had a franchisee who blew his opportunity, was profitable, was complaining about the business, was telling me how my methods didn't work, even though I had twice the revenue volume in the same region as him. And I was like, you know what? Just get out the system then, dude. Like, we don't need you. Sell, go. You're full of crap. You don't want to work. And, you don't do anything in our process. And that one conversation right there turned into a legal posture from that person and cost me a lot of money. And I was like, wow, you know what? I can't play this game anymore. I cannot play this game. I do not need to be communicating with franchisees directly, because of the level of accountability that I want to hold people to, and the amount of excuses that I'm not willing to accept is too extreme for some. And so that was my cue to say, hey, let's bring in some partners that can handle that professionally, grow us, and grow the brand. And so we ran a process and did that. And now after that process, I'm going to tell the truth. I mean, I just got off the phone with one of our co-CEOs. I had a good call today, but it has been probably one of the most trying things I've ever done in my life.
I bet, man. I mean, you're like, you guys have put blood, sweat, and tears into this thing for a decade, and I'm sure there was some big financial upside, right, for bringing these partners in, but I can't even imagine how hard it would be to essentially hand this business over. I don't know if hand it over is the right way to put it, right? But you're giving up control, or some control, right?
When you sell majority, you are exactly what you said. You're giving up control, you're handing it over. And as I talk to you right now, and as I work through this process mentally, it's been, I mean, my wife and kids right now are probably like, dad is not always the easiest to be around, to say the least, and what I'll say is that I would compare this to almost like getting a divorce after 20 years of marriage, and then having a child that you split custody with. And in order to split custody with the child, you realize through the process that you guys need to have a good relationship. And then you have to figure out how, for the kids. Yeah. And you need to figure out the best way to do that so that your child can go forward in a productive manner without any kind of trauma. And that is what I feel like this has represented. And you see people do this sometimes, where at first the divorce is a little messy, and then adults come to the table and are like, look, okay, we gotta make sure our kids okay. We gotta do this for the kids, Yeah. And so that's what I would say it is. And because again, for someone who doesn't really appreciate corporate that much, and I guess in this case, it's necessary to support the franchisees. It's necessary to support the investment goals of my family. And so there's compromises that need to be made. And so that's where I find myself today. As we discussed before, I did literally move out into the woods, and away from South Florida. I'm in Georgia now, as a way to kind of give space in the space that's needed for, implementing some of these changes, because it's very difficult to be so close to it sometimes, and that's just that's an honest answer.
I appreciate the openness, man. And, this is something people should think about, right? If you're already in business for yourself, if you're, considering business ownership, and, you're on the franchisor side, right? So, we're talking a pretty big organization here at the point that, you guys had these investors come in, but I mean, I can kind of look at it, through the franchise that my wife and I still own. The one we sold back in November, it was having such a negative impact on our lifestyle. That was an easy decision to go ahead and sell it. But our other franchise, it's profitable, generates great income for us, very lifestyle friendly at this point. We've got great people in place, but the idea, comes up every now and then, usually for me, kind of tossing it to my wife to see what she thinks. I'm like, we could sell this and make a nice little chunk of change, and then, figure out what else we want to do. Right. There's a lot of other directions we could go in. And she like that, if we ever get to that point, it's going to be a very, very difficult decision for her, because it really is kind of like her business baby. Right. And she's got, like I said, a great team of people that are very loyal to her, and she feels a sense of loyalty to them. And I think that's probably the number one thing that would either prevent her from ever wanting to sell the business or make it extremely difficult to. And so, these are things that I think anyone that's in business for themselves or considering it should think about, right? Is, what happens if I really, really knock it out of the park and I'm successful? Is that going to really get me where I want, or is that going to maybe potentially bring me back, kind of like you said, full circle to where I was trying to get away from? Probably not the worst problem to have if it does, right? Because you've got options, but
that's what there's probably, if somebody's watching this or a clip makes it to social media and people hear stuff like that, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you sound crazy, right? And if you told me that I would have said something like this 10 years ago, I'd be like, whatever, dude, we'll cross that when we get there. Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's, well, look, I mean, even your example of moving out of South Florida, to the woods in Georgia, I was telling you, we just moved to, and, we only moved about 45 minutes north of where we live, but, out of a bigger city in our area to, very rural, small beach town, a little bit of land, some space, we're not in the suburbs like we were before. And it is just funny because, like, I kind of grew up in central North Carolina, out in the country, Cowtown. And like when I was in high school, man, I could not wait to get out of there. Right. And then I've kind of come full circle, right? I'm a little bit older. I've got some kids, and I'm like, get me to the country. Like, I want some space. I don't want to be able to see my neighbors. I don't want anyone, trying to be in my business and be nosy. Like, I think it's life and business.
For just a quick second, because I don't understand people, man. Like with what you just said. And no one ever talks about this. When people are in a situation that you're having right now, right? Like, you have goals, you have a vision, a dream, you want to give your kids the best opportunities possible. And you want to have something to show for, typically people like that are in your space, business owners, whatnot. That's the whole part of the so-called American dream. I don't understand why this is foreign to people. I don't understand why people think that buying a home in a cookie cutter neighborhood where your neighbors are 10 feet next door, or living in you have the financial means, but you're living in a condo building stacked 80, 90 people on top. Like, that is not really the American dream. If you look at like building wealth and all of the things that are attached to just overall success that people could agree on, you hit it on the head. Like, why would you want to have a neighbor on top of you? Why would you want to have to interact and engage with someone on a day that you don't want to, or have an inconvenience, or have
just because you need to take your trash out? Now you got to talk to someone that you have no interest in talking to, right? And pretend to be nice.
Like, Jeff, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk right now.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I saw you got home late. Everything okay? I saw the car was in the driveway. Yeah, dude, I was out, hanging out with my buddies, and I had too much to drink, and I got home at, like, why are you worried about what I'm doing, dude? Like, I don't want to explain this to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's none of your business. Yeah. And I want to pick and choose when we, interact. And so I don't understand why more people don't have the mindset of like, hey, I want my own space. I want to grow this for my family. Maybe I want to pass this down for my family. Maybe I don't want everybody to know and be exposed to everything that I do. Maybe I want to have something to call mine. And I just don't understand why more people aren't of the mindset of yourself of doing this, as a goal.
It's a good question. My gut answer to that why would be, it's like marketing. And I mean, this may take us down a rabbit hole, and if it does, great. But I mean, it's like there, so many people are essentially brainwashed, right? I mean, like, if you look at the school system today, right, it's essentially designed to, or at least the way the school system was originally created, was to take care of the kids while the parents went to the factory to work. And, you know, the day, the setting that they're in and the cadence of the day is really no different from that, right? Like,
Right.
I saw some, you know, videos on I guess Instagram recently comparing like a prison cafeteria to a middle school cafeteria, right? A middle school playground to, you know, the yard in a prison. And it's like,
It's the same.
damn, it's eerily similar, right? And so, you know, the marketing from the banks and the credit card companies, and it's all just kind of selling, you know, a different American dream than what we're talking about, right? It's selling, hey, everyone's got the house in the suburbs that's, you know, cookie cutter, and everyone's got the same cars and wears the same clothes. And so I think it's just very easy to kind of fall into some of that brainwashing, if that's the right term, I don't know. But and then how you break out of that, I don't know.
Programming. I learned that I fell into that trap when I was the corporate banker, and my wife and I went to the model home in the new neighborhood, and we picked out everything, and we wanted that, and we were so excited to move in. And we did that a couple times as we, you know, kind of ascended through our career. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is BS, dude. Like, it's and then the neighbors and the HOA, and they're coming over and they're like, did you hear what Brenda and Sam just did? And did you see, how are they affording that new Audi in their driveway? Like, that's kind of weird. She's a nurse, and like, it doesn't make sense. And he hasn't worked in like what the hell? Like, I just saw you hanging out with Brenda last night. You go to their house every night.
Yeah, it's always the behind the back type of stuff and the clicks. I mean, I was my wife and I were just talking about this last night, because, you know, when we were looking to buy land up here where we moved, you know, we looked for a while, and, you know, there are some really nice neighborhoods up, because like we live right on the coast, right? So, you know, you want to have a boat, and you want to have easy access to the water with your boat. And so if that's not keeping it at a marina where they put the boat in and out of the water for you, that's ideally a neighborhood with a private boat ramp, right? Where only the people that live in that neighborhood can trailer their boats and put them in. And so there's some really nice, I say nice neighborhoods, you know, up in this Hampstead Surf City area that have the private boat ramps. They have all the amenities, right? The luxury resort type pools, and the clubhouse and the tennis courts and all of that. But they're cookie cutter houses. I mean, some of them are I don't know if you call them cookie cutter, like nice houses, but you're still looking in your neighbor's window, right? When you step out into your front yard, and all the drama comes with it. And like, we know some people that live in those neighborhoods, but like, we considered it, right? Because we have young kids, and we're like, man, it'd be kind of nice to, you know, be able to meet some other, you know, parents in the neighborhood that have kids, and like the whole social aspect of it. And, you know, where we moved from was that type of neighborhood, but small, 30, 35 houses. And I remember telling my wife one time when we were like kind of processing, I was like, think about all the drama in this neighborhood of 35 houses. Like, what do you think that's going to look like in a neighborhood that's got 200 houses of people with more money, that think more highly of themselves, that have more egos? Like, I don't want it, you know? And so I think we made the right decision, and we're not like out in the middle of nowhere, right? We're, you know, close enough to everything we need, but at the same time, we've got space. And but I think you go through chapters in life, and you're, you know, when you're building a business, it's the same thing, right? Like, you've talked about the different, you know, versions of Forever Young. Like, you know, when you're building a business, you're going to go through different chapters, and the way you think about things are going to change and evolve. You know, like you mentioned, I forget what you were talking about, but, you know, 10 years ago, you would have, you know, laughed if someone had told you that you would be, I think, wanting to move to the woods in Georgia, right?
Or same for me, or even complaining about.
That's right. Yeah,
a transition. You know, after a company sale and exit. You know, when we weren't even making $1 at the time. You know,
right. You're like, I'll take that problem. Give me that problem.
Right.
All day. But, you know, so like, who's to say 10 years from now, I wouldn't look back at some of what we're talking about now and be like, idiot, you didn't know what you were talking about. Like,
Right.
but I think that's a good sign, right? That you don't want to get stuck in your ways. You want to always kind of be thinking about things differently and kind of challenging whatever the societal norms are, right? And just, you know, think for yourself. Don't be a sheep.
Absolutely.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back to the episode, but one quick note, you know, success doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if you'd like to learn more, you want to go deeper and interact with like-minded people, I'd love to have you join the free Path to Freedom Facebook group. You can join by going to pathtofreedom.com/group and become a part of the Path to Freedom community. All right, back to the episode. Hey man, this has been a lot of fun. I know you're busy and we're coming up on the top of the hour here, but you know, I'd reached out because you've been putting a lot of great stuff out on social media. So first of all, like tell people where can they learn more about Forever Young, you know, from a client perspective, if they are, you know, interested in franchise opportunities, where should they go? And then tell folks where they can connect with you and hear more from you, because I know I've enjoyed kind of following along with some of what you're posting out there.
Yeah, thank you, man. And a lot of that stuff, honestly, is kind of it's been therapeutic for this transition, and so a lot of it is kind of just a therapy session, and really trying to tell people. I want to tell people as much of the truth as possible, and I always know that like you said, just like moving into a cookie cutter neighborhood or whatever, most people, a lot of that stuff will go over their head. But if it can impact someone, if it can save you $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 mistake or relationship mistake, or maybe help someone be a better father or whatever, like that's what it's there for. I don't make any money from any of that stuff, but I really just, I like people, I like to engage with people, and I like to really share people. I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of shitty mistakes, not just in my business, but in my personal life over the years. And I don't think people talk about these things enough. And then young guys go out into the world and then they do the same thing over again. So I really try to do that. In terms of where to find me, I use Instagram as my business card. So my Instagram is Carlton_Washington_ on Instagram. I use the DMs like a business card and a Rolodex. Same thing for LinkedIn, Carlton Washington. In terms of Forever Young, I am still with the company. I'm even considering becoming a franchisee of my own company right now, as well, just to kind of keep the integrity and best practices that I can contribute. And so in terms of Forever Young, I am still there. foreveryoung.com. That's with the number 4, foreveryoung.com. But if somebody was interested in buying a franchise, I don't have hours upon hours, but I'd love to, if your clients or if I ever need to shoot them back around to you or whatever, they can contact me. Carlton at fyinstitute.com, Carlton at frankyesinstitute.com. I'd be glad to spend a few minutes talking to them, making sure I'm not going to take them through the whole process, but I am
give them some real life advice, man. Like you said, not enough people are out there being real. You know, it's all, you know, it's all for show, right? It's all for 30-second clips to, you know, make you look the best you possibly can. And, you know, when we're talking about people making big life-changing decisions monetarily, from a lifestyle standpoint, their family's impacted, like you need to get real information and real guidance, and no one can make the decisions for you, but there are people out there that, you know, have done it, are doing it, you know, they're walking the path that, you know, the aspiring entrepreneur wants to walk. Like, go learn from those people, and, you know, be open to advice that they would share.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, like, look, I'm a guy that's filed bankruptcy before. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm extremely sensitive to people's financial health, and the connection that has to their relationships and to themselves and to the psychology of that. And so I can say that unequivocally, like that I would rather just bring on the best of the best and people that are built for this. And I'd rather, like you said earlier in the show, tell people that if it's not for them, this is not for you, but I can tell you a guy who can tell you what is. You know, his name is Wes. and let me connect you with him. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'll have to go back and watch this to remember what I said, but it's, just because it's a good franchise doesn't mean it's a good franchise for everyone, right? And it's true. And then, on top of that, not everyone's cut out for business ownership, and that's fine, right? If it were easy, everyone would be a business owner. So well, look, we'll post your social handles and the website links in the show notes, and I'll give Forever Young a real quick plug, and then we'll wrap this one up. And I need to get back in touch, but I'd been doing some of the peptide therapies probably about a year ago. Did them for about 6 months, and honestly just got too lazy to go get my blood work done again, so I could order some more. But I need to do that because I was feeling great, when I was doing those peptides. I was doing it remotely because there's not a location in my area yet. But go check out the stuff that Forever Young's doing. It's medically guided, I guess you would say, in a way, and they've got a lot of cool stuff that they're doing to help people look good, feel good, and that's more important now than ever. So Carlton, thank you, brother. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for your input, your advice. Thanks for being open, and keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Absolutely. Hopefully we help someone today, man. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.